What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another Sheen exclusive. My name is Kristen, and I am here today with Kadine. She is the showrunner and executive producer for Disney Plus, and we are super excited to get into this conversation. So I just want to let you know I have about 7 questions, but if you need to jump in or add anything, please feel free. All righty. So first, how are you doing today? How do you feel in this moment of life?
Hi, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Kristen. This is such an honor. I feel very special being here. I am right now, I am in a daze. Like this is crazy. Sorry, my puppy is wanting attention as well. So I'm just gonna let her sit and chill out. But I am in a moment of complete and utter just like awe, if that makes any sense. Like it's just been such a special project to be a part of turning the tables with Robin Roberts. I mean, Robin Roberts, like Robin Roberts, and I'm grateful. Like it's a milestone in my career to be able to be a part of a team that created something like this, and to be like at the helm of it, to be a lead creative and to be trusted in this way. So I'm just like, I'm absorbing, I'm receiving and processing, if that makes any sense.
Yes, I love all of those words that you used because I feel like in this moment of life, we're still kind of in a pandemic and learning, and those words that you said, receiving and just accepting and all of that stuff. I think we're all learning to do that a little bit more nowadays.
Yeah, 100%. I think we have no choice but to,
yes.
Right? I think that when you fight it, that's when it gets even more difficult than it already is. So for me, I follow the practice of going downstream, like, all right, everything's going this way, then I'm going with it too. Because if not, I'm going upstream, and that's fighting, and that's a battle.
That is true. I love that analogy. I really do.
I didn't make it up. I got it from Abraham Hicks. I didn't make it up.
So I want to go back way to your beginning. I want to know everything. So when I was reading over your bio, I saw that you have a bachelor's in journalism and a master's in communications.
Yes.
So do you feel like your schooling prepared you to do anything that you're doing today? Because I honestly feel like you kind of only get a sneak peek. But what do you think?
I mean, that's such a good question. I haven't even thought about like school in that way. I think that it did, at the time I was like, I'm going to be a journalist. I wanted to be an international war correspondent, Yeah, I was like, I'm going to be a Black Christian Amanpour. That was in my mind. I was like, that's it. I'm from Panama originally, and, literally witnessed war and saw what it can do and how messages can vary depending on who's telling the story. And I wanted very much to be a person who got the story out. Right. So I was like, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to be a journalist and I'm going to learn how to tell a story. And I did, and so while I am not using the degree in that way, I think that it helped me craft. It was the foundation of the craft. And it really also taught me what I didn't want to be. I had this teacher. Let me, I'm gonna date myself, but my internships in college were with QVC, like home shopping. Yeah. Who knew it's in Westchester, Pennsylvania, right? Which is where I grew up. And so I would intern for them every summer. And I had a boss, a managing producer, and I'm forgetting her name right now. I think it was Nancy, but she told me she's like, internships are great because you learn what you like, but what's even better? They show you what you don't like. And I never let that go. Like I always held on to that thought, like, oh, I can learn what I don't like, and I can use that. And so when I went to college and I was at Penn State, and it was awesome, all the things that you hear, it was wonderful. And I had this professor a teacher in journalism, like the upper journalism classes. And she was a great teacher. She knew her stuff. She was a good journalist, but she was resentful of the profession. And she was resentful of the evolving technology and how, it used to be like you needed a camera and this, and a camera person and a sound person and this. And, nowadays it's you,
Right.
right? And she knew that that was coming.
Mhm.
And I think that that was very difficult for her to see because it kind of felt like it went against, when people are like, it doesn't go with the core principles of what we do. But, it was really interesting to learn that I didn't want to be an angry, she like ended up being like a journalist in a small town, right? As opposed to, big city dreams that we all have. And I felt like, oh, she's resentful of the task at hand. She's resentful of her profession. And she's like, you're going to have to change your hair. You're going to have to wear certain clothes. She said all these things. And I was like, none of that sounds right for me. And so I learned that that was not what I wanted, and instead focused on further learning the parts that I did like the production and producing and writing. And, so that kind of, I think that all of those, the schooling, and when I got my master's, that I think was just about thinking and opening your mind up to think in different ways,
Mhm.
so all of it was valuable. But yeah, it's not the way you expect it. If anything, the true like where I really, really, really learned, and I considered it like the grad school of production, was when I started working at MTV, back in the day. Like that's where they just throw you in and they're like, okay, direct this shoot. And you're like, what does it mean to direct? Like, and then of course I'm being quite facetious, but you get what I'm saying. Like you really get, it's trial by fire there. And I really had to like learn. And I learned from some of the most amazing people, who again are masters of their craft and believe in things being done a certain way, but are amenable to expanding and being dynamic. So I'm very grateful for that.
Ooh, you said so many good things there. I love it all, especially the part of getting the experience and learning what you may not want to do. It's funny because, we talk about that a lot now with the media and how fast everything is and how
Yeah,
quickly careers grow.
sure.
We don't necessarily talk about the things that, you can get from schooling. So I really like that point. I really,
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm.
I think it's really just like, if you're in a program that's just not for you, okay.
Yeah.
But I think just being open to learning is what it's about. It's pointing you in a certain direction. It's providing you a framework upon which to like operate from.
Exactly. Exactly. I love that. So my next question, well, I have several, but
Yay.
how has working in television and film impacted your life, like your outlook on life?
Kristen with the questions. Um, you know, how does it impacted my outlook? It has shown me that I am literally like, that we as people, as humans, we are the masters of our own destiny. Like we are the gatekeepers. We create, like my job is to create stories. My job is to paint pretty pictures, and I love it. And, what I've learned is, oh, if I can do this
Mhm.
for someone else, I can certainly do it for myself,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know? And there's a lot of things that I've kind of just like extracted from my learnings and just applied it to my own life.
Mhm.
Um, I think that I really believe that we really can be whomever we want to be. Like we are the main star in our own universe. So
Yeah.
just like go and tell that story and make it. But also, you know, I have learned that it's all made up. You know what I mean? Like that's another thing. Like it's all made up. So like it helps me to remember like I don't need to get caught up in some like trend or some belief system like that. Oh, this is how it is, because no, like actually somebody made it up, and I probably know that person in some way, shape, or form. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's helped in that way.
Ooh, I like that. So my next question, Sheen is the ultimate in beauty. That's our tagline. And I see you have beautiful hair, beautiful skin. So
I'm so flattered.
yes, you're gorgeous. So
Thank
what
you so much. I receive it really. I'm just like, thank you, universe. Because when you're like, I don't even know. I literally was just a couple minutes ago, like, I don't even know. Let me just try and look decent. So thank you, really.
No, yes, thank you. But with that being said,
Mhm.
how you think, well, I guess I want to kind of change it a little bit. In terms of your appearance, were you ever worried about being in the workplace? Because I know now we're having the conversations about the Crown Act and things like that.
Of course. Yeah.
But prior to, we weren't really having these talks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
would you say that there was a level of, whether it be makeup or hair or anything that you went into your workforce thinking about?
I mean, yeah, right. So like my locks, I've had them for quite some time now, but I didn't always. It was going natural was a very long process for me. I was the girl with the long extensions, and then I had the weaves and the everything. My older sister makes fun of me because at one point I only relaxed the front part of my
Yep.
hair,
With the edges. Mhm.
the
Yeah.
edges, so that I could get a weave. She was like, "How is that any sense?" I was like, "Don't worry about it." You
Right.
know,
Mhm.
I'm like, I got this. It's a look. Yeah, she was right. But I've run the gamut of all of our iterations of the it's so wonderful the options that we have for our hair, right? And I think that I didn't embrace it properly. I saw it more as like a task that I had to figure out rather than just like, wow, look at how many versions of expression I have. It was like for me, it was like I gotta figure out which hairdo I can, what works for me. So, and it was because, it was very westernized, right? Like, I wanted to be a reporter. So like, it was like, I have to have long flowing hair and it's got to be straight. And like, my hair just does not do well straight. It's very thick and coarse and kinky and all the things, but it's also very fragile, and I am not one of our gifted sisters who can really, do her own hair. So I had to find somebody to do it right. And after going natural, I went natural and I went through it. People are like, wait, what's going on with your hair? Because it was, and still often continues to be a primarily white space that I operate within. And, I don't think that at the time coming up that people were as open or understanding as people can tend to be now, or as woke, whichever way you want to go with it. And so there was a lot of explaining that I had to do for others rather, and therefore to myself. I'm like, why are you spending all your time explaining who you are to people? So it was growing into my comfortability. And when I got to a point where I went natural and I loved it, and then being like, oh, I'm gonna try it further. And I have sisters, and so they went natural first, and then they locked their hair, and they're looking at me like, I was like, all right, all right, all right, and I did it, and I haven't looked back. I'm so grateful for the embrace, like my own embrace of it, because I feel like, they say like when you let things go, that's when you receive, and you're open for the gifts and the blessings. So I feel like in not in accepting my hair and like the fullness of it, the good and the bad, like, it just opened me up to like, oh, I can wear my hair like this, or I could do that. I'm meeting new hairstylists, all the things. So I feel like I went in a crazy circle, but I don't know.
Oh, I love it all because I feel like that's a lot of the process for a lot of us.
Yeah.
So I definitely can relate. So let's talk about turning the tables with Black
Yes.
secrets.
Yes.
So why was it important for you to be a part of this project?
Kristen, you're very good. Does everybody tell you that your questions are magical and you're really good?
No, I haven't done an interview in a really long time. So
I
thank
mean,
you.
you're killing it in the sense that like you don't ask the questions that I typically think that people, that are asked. You kind of ask it from a different way. It was important for me to be a part of this project because I am just, I have in the embrace that I spoke of my voice, right? I also recognize the tremendous the magnitude and the responsibility of being a Black woman in television, in media creation, and that not only, I've kind of given up on that whole, not given up, but I pushed aside that notion of a seat at the table. And I'm just like, how about I create my own platform? Like, yes, thank you for the seat at the table. I receive it. Like somebody invites you into their home. Thank you. Right. But how about I just make my own space, create my own space? Like within the space you give me, I'm going to leave my own mark. So maybe at the table, I don't know, I show up with my own Tupperware. I don't know, but it's just like, I wanted to ensure that our stories are told and that they're told properly. It's so often that, people want to create content for women or for women of color or LGBTQIA, whatever, category or bucket they put us in, but they don't actually put the people who should be telling those stories at the helm.
Yeah.
And so then the story isn't told right. And so you're sitting there watching like, this don't smell right. You're just like, there's so many times you watch or people don't look right. For instance, as a woman of color, as women of color, Black women, like lighting for us is crucial, right? Like our skin is so beautiful and it just sucks in light. So somebody has to know how to light us properly. If not, we're going to look really flat. And then once you, and then you get, there's lighting, but then the next step is when you're putting it all together in color, there's a color correction. You have to like make sure that the color correction is done right, or you're going to look ashy, and those are the things. Like, you ever watch something, you're like, why does everybody look ashy? And I know you guys are Sheen, so you're all about the glow,
Yeah.
and so it's things like that. Like for me, those are the things that are important. Because women, women, we are not a monolith, obviously. The expression of woman is so varied and beautiful. And women of color, that, we just keep breaking it. Like we're like a kaleidoscope in that way, you keep turning it and it's different and it's different and it's different. And I am so aware of that because of all of the factors and facets of myself. So, if I know that about myself and that's me, imagine the world out there. And it was important for me to be in a role where I could put a lens on that and magnify that and show, look at this multitude of experiences. And yet still, we're all the same. We are all, we experience it in all these different ways, but they're all the same feelings. It's all coming from the same sources, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, that definitely makes sense. Thank you for that. I like the kaleidoscope. I like
You got it.
it.
I used to
So,
love those when I was a kid. You just keep turning it and turning it.
I kind of only experienced it twice, and I was kind of like, I don't know. But,
You're like, all right, I guess.
yeah, I don't know.
It's fine.
What do you think viewers can take out of this project?
Yeah. So I watched, so I've watched it over and over again, but I watched it for the first time last night, like on the platform. And I was just, after I got over, just like, oh, look at it. I watched it on via Zoom with my best friend. Right. And like she'd gone through it with me in the sense of experiencing, like the process of me working on it. But this was her first time like watching an episode. And so I'm more watching her watch it, than watching it, because it was she reacting in the ways that, like was she laughing and, in the moments or taken aback or whatever it was. And so I hope that the viewers they experience these iconic women, like Debbie Allen.
Right.
She walked in the room and I was just like, I'm okay. Everything's fine. Women like Debbie Allen and Jamie Lee Curtis, Billie Jean King, Melissa Etheridge, there's so much, Sheila E. There's so many women that are involved in this and that, they've done these tremendous accomplishments, right? Tig Notaro, Raven Simone, Josie Toda, Betsy Johnson. I met Betsy Johnson, like she was like my style icon, for real. And you get to see these people that you've held in such high regard. And Jenna Dewan, for instance, and you get to have you see them having these conversations where all of that, because all of them are iconic, right? And so they acknowledge one another and they celebrate each other, which I thought was beautiful. But they strip all that and just talk about their experiences, about vulnerability, about authenticity, what it means to be a woman in these different ways, what it means to be a mother, what it means to be transgender, in their experience, right? And they can only speak from their experience. And, so I think that the viewers will see these women in a new way, experience them in a new way, like not like a press junket where they're answering like, my movie comes out on Saturday, but rather like, as a mother, these were fears that I had, because there's so many mothers out there, who have fears, You know, there's so many trans girls who have fears, right? And here's someone that you hold in this high regard, letting you know, like, hey, I went through it. This is what, you know, what it felt like for me, or, you know, whichever way. And then for them, these same group of women to turn the table, be another, we can add the kaleidoscope, right? And they turn it and you see this new fascinating turn and they ask questions of Robin, who's always the one asking the questions. And for her to reveal herself in the way that she did and saying things that telling stories she'd never told before, like, for me, that was the highest honor. You know, like I just set the parameters and say, all right, this is what we're doing, y'all. And then to see and to witness what unfolded, I felt so blessed.
Ooh, I love all of that, especially the gems that you say that each of them drop, because like you said, it is nice to get opinions of everyone to see how their experience worked.
Yeah.
So for you, how was it, or what was the importance of getting to know Robin before working on this project or while working on this project?
Yeah, you know, you have to. I mean, she's the host. She's the vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I had to like completely like understand where she's coming from, what it is that she wanted to accomplish in this project. You know, when you work with talent, you always want to create a space for them to make their art, a safe space for them to make their art, you know? So I was able, when I interviewed with her, you know, again, in the height of a pandemic, it's on a Zoom and I'm like, you know, all of a sudden Robin Roberts is like on your screen. I'm like, hello. And I'm like, I tried to be so cool. I'm like, hello, Robin. You know, and quickly she just put me at ease and everything was so fine. And she's such a beautiful, like I think people are like, all right, we get it. You think she's a beautiful light. She's such a beautiful light though. Like, I mean, okay, dog. She's such a beautiful light. This is Ramona. She loves me very much. She can't handle. But Robin is just this beautiful light and she is vibrant, you know, and she is kind, like genuinely kind and all encompassing and welcoming. And so when she opens and shines that light, you know, it's not so bright that like you're like, oh, okay. It's more like come into the light. You know, when you're at the beach and you're in the sun, you're like, ooh, that feels good. That's what it's like to be like on set with her. You know, like you're just like, yay, she shines so bright and I get to shine too. And I was so grateful for that. And it was very important for her. You know, it was her production company along with LeBron James's production company, Spring Hill. And then of course it airs on Disney Plus. But it was very important for all of them, and especially Robin, for it to be authentic, you know, for the connections that we formed between these women to be real so that they could have real conversations. And, you know, Robin wanted to make sure that we weren't just manufacturing relationships in a sense, you know, like these connections and that our topics were relevant, you know, and that it was multi-generational as well. Like we wanted women of different walks of age because of that, or different ages in life, multi-generational rather, excuse me, because we experience things so differently. You know, what Sophia Carson experiences is so different from what Jenna Dewan and, you know, Debbie Allen experience, you know, but all still at the same time relevant and the same. You know, it's who is it that Maya Angelou? We're more alike than we are different, right? You know, so but we experience it differently. And I think that being able to share it from, you know, an age, you know, it's like you look to someone like, wow, look at what you did. You opened the door for me. And then, you know, you have some like Debbie Allen looking at Sophia Carson and saying, but look at what you're doing now, you know, and it's like mutual inspiration in this way that I think is so important. And I especially like, you know, we're driven by pop culture so hard that I hope that younger generations are able to see the value in learning from their elders, because I think that sometimes gets a little lost, you know, so that was very important to me as well.
Ooh, that's really good, especially the part about the elders. We talk about that all the time, how Gen Z seems so different and they're still something that we're personally learning here. And it just seems like, wow. But I think Disney Plus is the perfect platform to put it on because
exactly
where they are. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's multi-generational viewing, right? You know, like co-viewing, I think it's called, where, you know, like I'm going to go home and visit my mom and I'm going to make sure she watches that. And then like my nephews might be around and they'll be watching it. So we'll all get to watch it together and experience it in this interesting way where we can reflect generationally about it. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, oh, I never knew that person did this or that. And I'm like, yeah, well, I didn't know. Like I understood that Sophia Carson was like a really big deal. I get it. Right. But like when I told my friend's niece, the 11-year-old, she freaked out. She's like, you're going to be in the same space as her. And I was just like, I am, and then of course in meeting Sophia, like, and seeing her body of work, you're like, I get it, you get it. But I just, you don't know, like that's just like, it's different music. It's different stuff than what I normally watch. But that's it too, right? So now I've expanded in this new way. And now I'm looking up her movies on Netflix and stuff, so it's cool, I think.
All righty. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I think
No, it's all good.
up with this last question.
Of course.
So again, we love beauty here. So when you're running out of the door, you have to make an important meeting or whatever it may be. What are 3 items that you are grabbing before you go?
Is it like, so makeup, like, is it like
any essentials? It can be makeup, it can be hair products, it can be skincare, anything.
Okay. Oh, this is 3 only?
Only 3.
Only 3. Whew. All right. Okay. Oh, all right. Let me think about this real quick. Okay. For a meeting though, so I gotta make sure I'm right. Okay, I'm grabbing my lip gloss or my lipstick. The one that I've been, this is it's MAC. I forget what it's called. So it's Diva, MAC Diva. It's a matte Diva. It's called. I love it. That's what I have on right now. So it's not like too crazy, but it's like, she's showing up. She's here for a reason. And then I'm also really big. I've become really big on SPF, just because like it's so important. And I think as women of color, we think we don't need it, but like this is, forgive me if this says whatever, but like, a lot of us sometimes tend to get like the raccoon eyes, and that's because we don't use SPF. Like we get really dark circles under our eyes. It's not because of like, of course, lack of sleep and all of that matters, but it's SPF because the skin is so sensitive and, and delicate. So SPF is my go-to. You gotta throw that on. And then I'm also, it depends on the day, but I'm also a big fan of the Glossier hybrid serum, that makes you like a little glowy,
Okay.
Yeah, that's my jam these days.
I keep hearing a lot of good stuff about them, but I have not tried anything.
Yeah, no, it's so good. Well, because I'm just like one of those people, I don't really like to wear, I'm not a big makeup person, but I do want to look polished, and so what I like about Glossier is that like, it'll give you that like finish, but not it's not caked on, so you've got like, you look put together, but not like beat to the gods. A beat to the god is necessary, but not, not for me to just show up at the office.
Right. No, I feel you. All righty. Well, thank you so much again.
Wait, I have one question. I'd like to ask you a question, since you've been so gracious and sharing with, and asking me all these questions. How does it feel to work for like Sheen Magazine and to get to be a part of, like the cultural diaspora in that way, and to provide a platform, for pretty Black girls like yourself?
Oh, thank you. It's definitely been life-changing. So this is my 4th year. So
like it?
Yeah, I love it. I'm still learning. And I think that just hearing stories from people you typically wouldn't speak to on a daily basis is so important. And it's so important to, I think just hearing everyone and what they have to offer is it's just made a world of difference. And it's made me realize, hey, you're not alone, and you can find a resource to talk to about whatever it may be. So yeah.
Whatever it may be. I had a yoga teacher tell me, she was talking about the blocks, but but I've never let it go. She's like, she goes, you'd be surprised how far you can get with a little support.
That's true.
Right? Yeah. Shout out to Jovan, like she was great. But yeah, thank you so much, Kristen. This has been so lovely.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. And before we go, I just want to make sure Turning the Tables with Robin Roberts is airing now on Disney Plus in every Wednesday, correct?
Yep. It's just they dropped all 4 episodes. So they dropped 4 episodes, and you can stream them all now.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for your time. And again,
Thank you,
my
Kristen.
name is Kristen, and I was here with the beautiful Kadine.
Kadine, yes.
All
Yes.
righty. Thank you
And
so much.
Ramona.
And Ramona. Hey, Ramona. She's adorable. Thank
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
you, you too.